IT is evolving, security for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What need to be on the lookout for in the cyber realm or security space? What does education look like in the coming years?
It changes very quickly because the minute we put mitigating factors in to stop an attacker, they're looking at how they can circumvent that.
Welcome to another episode of Office Hours. I'm glad to have our viewers and audience participating. I'm very excited and happy to welcome our next guest, Mr. Gary Sparks. Gary Sparks is one of our full-time faculty members, coordinator or director of our cybersecurity academic program at the college. Gary, welcome today.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Gary. So just for yourself and the audience, just as a reminder, these first few episodes of our podcast are just to kind of showcase and highlight our key faculty members and also a few key programs. So with that being said, Gary, again, we know you're our coordinator director of our cybersecurity pathway. Similar to some of our previous guests, can you share with the audience a little bit about your background, what educational background, work experiences, what led you to becoming a full-time instructor here at Metro?
Well, after high school, I grew up on a farm.
Okay.
So after high school, I wasn't planning on going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the economy about that time went bad. And so a joint decision between myself and my spouse was to go in the Air Force.
Okay.
And so my career field was security police.
Okay.
So after basic training and technical training, I got to spend 3 years at Eielson, Alaska, just north of Fairbanks, and guarding aircraft there, and then went from there to Little Rock, Arkansas, guarding nuclear weapons.
Cool.
And then from there to headquarters SAC at Offutt Air Force Base, guarding Major Command headquarters. So I was, about 1992, there was a position opened up in training as the NCOIC. So I'd been training on flight already. And so that allowed me to move into that position. And of course, the Air Force, because I was the non-commissioned officer in charge, I had to go to what was known as technical trainer school. So it gave on our career field identifier a T prefix. And so from 92 on, then right around 1996, 97 time frame, I'd moved on into as the chief of security for an intelligence squadron.
Okay.
And so I was responsible for all their programs, all their security programs, making sure they were compliant with public law. And about that time, too, a friend said, hey, I've got someone who works at Metro. They need folks to work in the labs. And so I was hired part-time just to be a lab assistant, help students with assignments, answer questions, and things like that.
Gotcha.
And then about a year after I started doing that, I was offered a part-time job teaching.
Okay.
And so I did that. And then 1998, Air Force wanted me to take a remote assignment, which I didn't want to do.
Right.
And so I let my enlistment expire and took all my time in service, the Air National Guard, and went to communications where I wanted to be to begin with.
Okay.
And so at that point, I was teaching part-time at Metro.
Okay.
And the info at that time was called COT, Computer Office Technologies. And so right as I was getting ready to get out of the Air Force, a full-time position opened up. I applied for it and got it.
Okay.
And so, taking those skill sets from being law enforcement, security, and then coming into the technological field was a really good blend. Actually, about 1997, I suggested a computer security class, and the then division chair said, "Was there a textbook?" Well, O'Reilly had one, but at that time, the full-time faculty, we don't need that.
Right.
And then 9/11 happened.
Right.
9/11 was a wake-up call for a lot of this. So I re-engaged and we started looking at putting together a program. Initially, the cybersecurity program was a specialist diploma, which a lot of employers were very apprehensive about paying for tuition. But as we went along, I was an advisor to the University of Nebraska, Omaha, NUSHA, and Dr. Blaine Burnham there. I was his community college advisor. And so we continued to work, and then I reintroduced doing a degree. So right around 2014, 2015, the CAA community had just been established. And so we re-engaged to do that. And so we stood up the current degree. And we brought advisors in before we started development to find out what they wanted. We had banking. We had different industries. We had law enforcement as part of that too. They were a key element in that also. And then after that, we in 2018 we were designated as a National Center of Academic Excellence with the National Security Agency, and we're currently in redesignation right now.
Right.
So last time I checked, our program of study is being under final review at the program office at NSA.
Right.
Our CAE application is final. They're getting ready to assign a peer review for that, and so. Once we get through that process, we'll be designated for another 5 years.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah, very exciting times for us. Yeah, we're super, hopefully, optimistic and confident we're going to be redesignated here very soon. So
Yeah.
very cool. So Gary, let me go back a minute. Can you just share with the audience and viewers, you mentioned your work experience, career experience, a little bit about your formal education that led you to this as well?
when I was in the Air Force, I have 2 associate degrees. One is Instructor of Military Science and Technology, and the other is Security and Law Enforcement Administration.
Okay.
So that was my foot in the door to start teaching at Metro because at the time an AS was what was required. And then I kept seeing these billboards driving from Fort Omaha back to Bellevue, and Bellevue University offered an accelerated bachelor's program.
Okay.
So I did that, got my bachelor's in Management Information System, and then immediately followed on with a master's of science in Management Information System with a focus on InfoSec.
Gotcha.
With my experiences at the intelligence squadron, I'm very familiar with the personnel security system, the information security system, the physical security systems, and bringing all those experiences into the classroom really helps the students get better prepared.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's shift gears, Gary. Let's talk about, again, you've been one of our faculty members for a few years. Can you share with the audience the classes that, a sampling of the classes you've taught over the years, and then maybe several. And then, maybe are there some that kind of stand out for you now that you enjoy teaching most? If you don't mind?
I've been with the college about 26, 27 years now.
Gotcha,
So, but yeah, I've taught in everything from networking, operating systems, and of course, right now my big focus is cybersecurity, getting our students prepared to go out in the industry. And I make sure that their program has got good rigor because the students need to be prepared for that because once they get out into the workforce, it's going to be tough. And a lot of times some of these folks, they burn out after a few years because of the stress. But yeah, I've taught those different classes. The cybersecurity, I did part of the development. We also had colleagues that helped do the development early on, and we just keep making improvements with that.
Right. So let's talk about that too. So, just for our viewers and audience, maybe that don't know how curriculum evolves and is developed at, both a 2-year and 4-year institution, can you share a little bit about specifically employer community involvement as far as giving us guidance and direction on content?
Yeah, well, the model that we're currently using is called BUILT. It's Business and Industry Leadership Team. And when we have these meetings, academics can be there, but they can't talk, which for some of them is quite difficult.
It's tough, yeah.
But we're listening to them. What are the trends that they're seeing? And that initial meeting that we had was, what do you need? Instead of us developing, saying, okay, here's what we developed. What do you think? Is what they need. And one of our longtime advisors, he was one of our first ones, is still one of our advisors. His name is Scott Christensen. At the time I brought him on board, he was a sergeant with the Nebraska State Patrol, and he was in charge of the State Forensics Lab. And so he has been a very good sounding board on different things and what we need to do with the program. We want our students to be well balanced. Some in the industry think it's just the technical aspects of it is cybersecurity. That's only one part of it. They have to be able to take that very complex subject and break it down into understandable terms that somebody who has no technical background can understand and know why it's important to them. And so that aspect of being able to communicate and critically think, that's one of our classes. That's I'll commend a student. I have a problem. I'll give them 3 or 4 hours, and then I'll get an email saying, "Oh, I figured out what I did wrong," and I'll say, "Good critical thinking skills." And that's what we need them to have in this industry.
Okay. So, and I give you kudos all the time, Gary, as far as, our BUILT or advisory board, your team and under your leadership and direction, you've, I think, assembled a highly engaging, functional, built team that we rely on. Can you maybe share, you don't have to be specific, but just industry-wise, like some of the industries that represent the built cyber team?
Well, what we did when we started building that, we wanted industries. In cybersecurity, we got military, we got financial, we got medical is getting to be an even bigger part in cybersecurity. We also have academics as a part of that from the universities, and we also have. See, I said defense, but have financial and in those areas. Utilities is another one, big one. MUD, OPPD are very instrumental in helping us with that as advisor, because a lot of what students are needing to know falls into the SCADA systems, supervisory control systems, and that's what they use on a regular basis to control switches at substations or open and close valves and things that way.
Gotcha.
But more importantly, that also goes into manufacturing of products and things like that. Automotive, that is considered part of the environment too.
Right.
So
yeah, and I know you've shared stories with me quite often, which kind of is my next leading question. Can you share with the viewers, audience, what might students experience in heading down our pathway of curriculum with cyber? And then kind of a two-part question. I'll say the second part later, but maybe a deeper dive into, based on the feedback we've gotten from industry partners, curriculum-wise, what do some of our courses look like, and what prospective students might expect to encounter?
Well, when they come into the program, it's going to be challenging. There's a lot to learn. They're not going to learn it overnight by no stretch of the imagination, but they need to be ready to plan, learn, work hard, and then that's going to make them even better. One of our students, he just graduated this summer. Outstanding student. To demonstrate his dedication, he drives 92 miles one way to come to class.
Wow. Okay.
And so he's highly dedicated. And in winter, he's going to start his bachelor's program at Bellevue.
Okay.
And he's planning to get a master's.
Gotcha.
And he just happens to be the student that participated in a statewide exercise with the Army National Guard. And the coordinator, at first, the impression I got was, oh, he's a student who may not know a lot. And so they said the first week they have classes. You don't have to show up to those, but come for the exercise in the second week. So they put him in enclave on that first day. And Wednesday I stopped by to see how things were going. And the coordinator says, we're highly impressed with his skills.
Gotcha.
And the next day I stopped by, and it was DV day. And they said, oh, your student briefed the lieutenant governor on the exercise this morning. Wow. And I went to the enclave. He was leading the enclave. He was teaching them how to use these tools he's learned in our classes to help them defend against attackers.
Very cool. Can you kind of on that topic, just, again, if I'm a prospective student listening and viewing this, and cyber is one of our largest programs of enrollment and interest. What might that, more in particular, what might they see coming through, similar to the student you just described? What class coursework?
Well, the coursework is they need to have that basic skill set. Networking is going to be a big part of it, understanding that. And the better they understand those areas, the better they can defend against them. Okay. And one of the big concepts that we really try to impress in students is think like the attacker. Okay. Where we look at how they're going to carry out a particular type of attack, and how do we defend against that. Okay. Some of the activities we have them do, like one of the very first classes, 2805, very first week they go out social engineering, they do physical reconnaissance and that's highly important to be able to identify vulnerability in systems and facilities. And then a bit later on in the quarter, they go out war driving. Right. Just to see and document Wi-Fi connections, and that becomes important too. Gotcha. And so we give them a lot of different experiences like that. In forensics, we have them go attend a court session and observe court procedure, because there's possibility they could be subpoenaed to testify. Gotcha. So and that just gets them out of the classroom, out of the textbook, and things that they will probably be doing and applying.
Right. And, you mentioned the student that you referenced, and you mentioned this briefly, but maybe elaborating more for prospective students, the importance of verbal written communication. So this student was called upon to present to the lieutenant governor and others, and maybe share with the audience what that looks like in your classrooms.
Well, in the classrooms, it's and it's one of the things that we're considering is adding more presentation type things on topics. But the student is basically, this is what and explain to the lieutenant governor, this is what the exercise does, and here's what we're getting from that.
Right.
Additionally, after that, it was about a week or two after that, I was scheduled to do a cybersecurity presentation for faculty and staff. He volunteered to develop it and do it.
Oh, okay.
So, and that helps get him better prepared. You know, I can do it all day. I've done it many, many times.
Right.
And I have several sessions coming up, like AGP. I'll be doing a brown bag for them again in October.
Okay.
As well as the State Department of Labor. I'm
Okay.
doing something in October for them too.
Okay. Very cool. Let's Gary. Let's talk about the Center for Academic Excellence. So you mentioned that earlier. I know we're going through redesignation now, moving towards the end of that process. But for those that don't know, maybe a more in-depth overview of what does that mean for MCC,
Okay.
and what why is that important?
Yeah. Because it's a federal government, they can't do accreditation, so they call it designation, and it's just like us going through an accreditation process. The process is a two-stage process. The first stage is the program of study. The program of study, we have to provide, for redesignation, we have to provide 3 years of graduates and enrollments. We have to provide redacted student transcripts, redacted student assignments that have been completed. We have to provide all the faculty CVs to show that they're qualified to teach the topics. We also have to provide a mapping of knowledge units to the NSA, where the course is mapped to those knowledge units. How are we doing program assessment of those? How are we making improvements to our program? And so once we get all that together, it gets submitted, and then what they'll do is they'll have what's known as a pre-submission reviewer look at it. Somebody else in the community that has gone through this process, they look at it and they match it to the requirements from the program office, and they say, okay, you need to fix this or you need to fix this, and give suggestions. And then once they feel comfortable with it, then it goes to peer review, which is a two-person committee, a chair and a reviewer. They look at the package independently, and then they get together to see what they found based on the requirements. And then if there's questions or concerns, they can do a request for information to the POC, and then they can respond to that. And then once they are satisfied that the requirements are met, then it goes to the program office at NSA, and they do a final review of it before they'll validate the program.
Gotcha.
So it's quite intense.
It is, yeah.
It's quite intense.
No.
And then once that is done, then the CAE application opens up. The program of study is 4 areas, 4 sub areas.
Right.
The CAE application's 10 areas.
Gotcha.
Right off the bat, we have to show that we're regionally accredited, and it's not, oh, are you? Prove it.
Right.
We have to provide evidence, and then we have to have a letter signed by the provost or the college president appointing me as the POC for cybersecurity for Metro Community College, which means I'm responsible for the IT security, the non-credit side, and the credit side. Right. So if anything comes up, they're going to call me. They're going to email me and say, "What's going on with this?"
Right.
And then so that's part of it too. We have to have a center site that student is accessible to the public and has news feeds and resources for students to be able to look at. How are we doing our education, training, and awareness for faculty, staff, and students? Then it goes into other areas. How are we providing training or extracurricular activities and other things for students, like National Cyber League?
Right.
And then how are we continuing getting our faculty developed?
Right.
What development are we doing for them? And then also, how are we interacting with high schools? How do we provide support for K-12?
Right.
And how are we providing support for the community? And so there's a lot of work to be done there. And for example, I sit on the Better Business Bureau Business Committee, and so I help them with that, going out talking to homeowners association, clubs, businesses, helping them with their training. And it's ad hoc. They don't have to pay for it.
Right.
It's something that's free for them.
Gotcha.
There was a marketing company here in Omaha that they had a breach. It was a W-2 breach.
Okay.
And so they asked me to do an hour session for the entire company. And after that, one of the owners sent an email wanting some information, and they responded, "Please call to verify," because that's how effective that presentation was with this group.
Gotcha. Cool.
So-
Cool. So yeah, I know you've been working on this several months. We're getting in the final stages. You've kept me up to date through processes, and we're very confident we will definitely get redesignated. So super excited about that. And throughout the process, you've mentioned, I mean, maybe just putting a final stamp on that to prospective employers, students' perspective that are considering a Metro cybersecurity program. How would you summarize the importance of having that designation with our institution?
Well, the designation opens up all these resources to us. The CA communities nationwide, we have over 400 schools designated right now. And one of the requirements is, as a POC, we're required to be active in the community. I'm a mentor for schools that are applying. I'm also a reviewer.
Gotcha.
And then I also serve on subcommittees like the ethics subcommittee. I've been on that, and we've been working on those different things that way. We work together to try to solve this. Cybersecurity is a national security issue, and it's an economic security issue.
Right.
And it's going to take a collaborative effort between everyone to be able to get this done. Nebraska is very unique, as we have 4 CA designated schools in the eastern part of the state.
Right.
2 community colleges, us and Northeast Community Colleges, 2 universities, the University of Nebraska Omaha and Bellevue University.
Right.
And so that working collaboration is highly important.
Right.
And then 2, sharing expertise. My relationship with Bellevue, I helped them during COVID update their forensics classes.
Right.
I also help them out as in other areas, and we talk on a very regular basis. What do we see, what's going on, and so forth.
Right. And I know we're working on expanding that relationship with UNO as well, too,
Yes.
and the other 2-year institutions. So, yep, great. What? So, you hear and I hear in the news every day. There's some impact on security across all sectors of society.
Yeah.
What could you share with our audience, just as an individual user? What are some basic precautions one might take to make their presence in this digital space that we have now more secure?
One of the big things, just as that typical user, is keep your operating system, keep the applications current.
Okay.
The vendors, Apple and Microsoft both, now Microsoft now, if you try to ignore it, pretty soon you won't be able to. But making sure those softwares are up to date and are patched. Be suspicious of not only emails, but texts that you get.
Right.
Because if there's a link in there, you don't want to click on the link. If there's a QR code, you don't want to scan that. If there's a PDF, there's a high probability that's got malware in it.
Right.
So, there's a website called VirusTotal, and they can download the file and put it there, and it'll test it for malware. They can copy the internet link and paste it into that site, and it tests it for malware also.
Gotcha.
So that's some of the very simple things.
Right.
The cybersecurity practices they do at home will follow them to work.
Right.
So if they practice good things, good passwords, and different things that way, that's going to help them as they move forward.
Right. And, I also hear, phishing attempts, social engineering. Any additional thoughts on those? I mean, I think a lot of what you mentioned kind of addresses some of those things, but any additional tips you might share with viewers or listeners?
Sorry. Yeah, the phishing is a combination of social engineering and subterfuge.
Right.
And a lot of people, they say, oh, well, they got misspelling, they got grammar problems there. That's intentional.
Right.
They're targeting someone who's not going to pay attention to that. Now, for organizations and for personal use too, if MFA, multi-factor authentication, is available, use it.
Gotcha.
In 2017, Google issued Yubico keys, hardware keys, to all their employees. The phishing attack surface dropped 99.99%.
Because of those tools.
Because of that.
Right.
And of course, since the college has rolled out Okta on the student email side, that issue's gone away completely.
I've noticed it's greatly diminished, and we used to have a few
Yeah.
issues going on, as you know. Yeah, definitely. I've seen a noticeable difference since the implementation. Let's see. What about, Gary, can you share, I'm asking our guests, specifically our faculty, can you recall an instance of a student you've encountered recently or in the near past that has left a lasting impact with you. Some of what you helped to introduce them to in the security realm has left an impact on them.
Yeah, this student was many years ago. He was teaching at Sarpy. At the time, he was working construction.
Okay.
So he'd leave the construction site, come to class, and he'd be covered in dirt and mud. And I made a comment about that he used to come down there and he'd go down to vending machines to get something to eat. And he struggled. He was struggling. I kept encouraging. I said, "Hang in there." I said, "It takes time." And then after a few quarters, he approached me and he said, "Well, I'm moving down to Kansas City. My girlfriend lives there." And so he moved down there and he completed his coursework at Johnson County Community College.
Okay.
About 3 years after that, I get a message on LinkedIn from him. He said, I remember your comment about, coming straight from the construction site. I now work for IBM.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool. Yeah, we get those testimonials all the time. So something was working, maybe your message on perseverance and hanging in there, definitely, for sure. So Gary, share with us, myself and the audience, this IT is evolving, security for sure. From your vantage point, what do we as educators need to be on the lookout for, specifically in the cyber realm or security space, and what does education look like in the coming years?
Well, it's changing dramatically, both IT and cybersecurity.
Right.
Like there was a comment earlier, I start my face-to-face classes, current events and cybersecurity.
Okay.
And so we take a look at news articles, and I use allinfosecnews.com. It's an aggregate that pulls in from the Register and Bleeping Computer and several sources. And so we look at articles saying, okay, what's going on? And I encourage the students to bring them in too.
Okay.
So that's how we keep up with what's going on in the industry, where we need to pay attention to. It changes very quickly because the minute we put mitigating factors in to stop an attacker, they're looking at how they can circumvent that.
Right.
And so it's something we have to stay on top of.
Right. Gotcha. What about my favorite topic as of recent, and I'm sure yours as well, AI. What does AI do for education, one, and then two, security in particular? What are some things, thoughts, considerations you have?
AI is a tool.
Right.
In the cybersecurity world, AI is being used to help do predictive analysis for attacks and so forth. From an academic side of it, the student might think, "Oh, that'll make it easy to do this report." But what we need to know, what do they know about it, not what they can generate out of a tool.
Right.
And that's going to make them better prepared going forward. How do we detect it? There's not a whole lot out there right now.
Right.
And so we're kind of watching it to try to mitigate some of that too. And but it's use, and responsible use.
Gotcha.
So that's the key there, the responsible use of it. How can we use it to improve what we're doing in the world of IT and cybersecurity? And of course, it's already being using. So if you have a weather app, it's using AI for predictive, and rain's going to start in the next 15 minutes, and different things that way. So that's where it fits in some of that. But again, it comes back to that responsible use.
Yep, that is the key for sure.
And for students who are looking to get into IT and cybersecurity, pretty much you have to be cleared to top secret security clearance. And anything in your academic environment could put a stop to that, because they look at integrity as one of the big things.
Right, and ethics, we talk about that quite
Yes,
a bit.
and that too, because they can do a lot of damage. One of the local banks here, their team that does their testing, make sure everything is secure, all their keystrokes are logged. They have video cameras on them all the time, because they could really damage the bank. They could destroy the bank very easily.
Right, for sure. What about, in closing, you shared some great points with the audience, myself. You've shared, prospective students, what they might need, character traits they need to have, problem solvers, creative problem solvers, critical thinkers. Any parting comments for the viewers or audience on maybe just the program as a whole, your thoughts, any additional parting comments or thoughts you have?
Well, our program has really grown since 2018. 2018, we may have had 50 to 100 students in the program. Since we had to report our numbers, the last 2 years we've had over 300 students enrolled with over 40 graduates.
Right.
That is huge.
It is.
That is huge. Some of the schools that I've reviewed, they'd be happy if they have 10.
Right.
So it is a huge for our program to be able to grow like that. And seeing our students, I also have students, they do put artifacts on their LinkedIn profile, and employers look at that 97% of the time. One of our recent graduates posted on there, he just got a senior cybersecurity analyst position. And so, and then another one just finished his bachelor's at Bellevue, picked up some certifications, and starting his master's.
Right. No, we have great successes, and I know you do a great job of sharing with me, our other faculty, where those the testimonials and where students go after MCC. To me, it means that we're making an impact and
Yes.
providing good foundational knowledge to folks, and definitely listeners, viewers, hearing that comment, it's going to let them know that we're doing something right, and you're getting a good, solid education when you come to MCC. So.
Yes.
Cool. Well, Gary, that's all I have. Unless you have any other thoughts, questions, comments for me, you can put me on the spot a little bit.
Put you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's 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 a total effort that we have to have with all this. It's just I'm very proud of this program. I was the one that came up with it in the early 2000s.
Right.
And of course, with my background in law enforcement and security, and then IT, I just have that passion.
Nope, love
I've
it.
got all the time and effort that I put into that, and I love seeing those students when they walk out, or they'll send me, "Hey, I know your program was tough, but I'm glad you did it."
Right, and that makes a difference. Yeah, those lasting comments. Definitely, I love it. I get your testimonials all the time, and I know you're regularly sharing success stories from students' emails, and so I love that. I mean, that again reiterates we're making an impact in the community, and
Yeah.
definitely in this space. Well, cool, Gary. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, to our audience and viewers, thank you for listening and tuning in. Gary, I know we're going to have you back more. We've always, I'm always coming to you and others with, Gary, let's talk about this or projects we have. So, we'll definitely, as we get a few more things going here in the coming weeks and months, we will gladly have you back and some of our other staff that support, or faculty that support cyber. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, thanks, Gary. Have a good week
right.
and good weekend.
All right. Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.